Hi, girls. Thank you so much for joining me today on Trusted Connections. How are you both doing?
Great. How are you doing, Teresa?
Doing well. So, we are with Live Love Artemis today. Tell us about how you got started and what the name means.
So I'll get started on how we got started, and Becky can share what the name is and how we got to the name, actually. Becky and I have been running our businesses separately, successfully, I would say, but we've been friends. I actually sat next to her in the New Jersey real estate school, and she was on the phone the whole time, like with deals. And I'm like, okay, I'm moving my seat next to this girl because she already has a thriving business. She had already been licensed in Pennsylvania, went back to school to get her license in Jersey because that's how she does things. And we discovered that we were literally soul sisters. So was my mentor, honestly, when I got started, and I admired her drive. And like, she just was like, she had this passion for selling homes that I had never seen, and like served her clients to a level that I felt that she helped me set the bar high. And I can say that because of her, it spiraled me into a real, like, I just thrived at the beginning of my business. And I worked predominantly with builders, and Becky was the same thing. So we were both renovating, flipping homes, and so we also had that commonality of building wealth as women, and that's a strong force to keep together. So she called me one day. This was after COVID. Yeah, right. You know the date of the conversation, probably April somewhere. She remembers all these numbers. And she said to me, I'm looking for a different brokerage. I need to level up. And that's Becky's personality. As soon as she gets comfortable, she's like, nope, I got to change something. So calls me and says, I have to change my brokerage. So not thinking, I never was looking for a partner, but at that time during COVID, I had no nanny, was running my business from home with my daughter, and my husband was out at work, and I just realized that I could no longer do this on my own. And honestly, I no longer wanted to. So I was going to hire an admin. I thought that was my solution. And that night, I went to bed after speaking to her and telling her to come interview at my brokerage. No intention of partnering. I had a very vivid dream of the two of us having literally the business we have today. And the only other time I've had a dream like that was about my daughter's name, and I named her Avia. And so I called her and I was like, hey, I have a funny like joke to tell you. And I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if we were business partners? And it was radio silence on the other line. And then she's like, so my ex-boyfriend at the time now, right, but said to me that you two should partner up, and had that conversation that night that I had the dream. So we were like, well, let's just play a game and see what if this could really work. So we have been told by somebody who has ran a personality assessment for large corporations for a long time that she had never seen such a strong pairing. So Becky's the visionary. She is like, okay, we're getting licensed in Florida. It's an international real estate brand, and I'm behind her, like, okay, how do we like so she's the visionary, I'm the executor. And we don't play in each other's lanes. We let each other do what we're good at. And then we added Nino to the team, and we have two other buyer agents, and we're on trend this year to probably finishing out about 40 million real estate sales. We're going to double that next year. And Artemis, the name, which is really the heart of the story. So that's what glues all this together.
So the name, Teresa. So of course we decided to work together, and we're getting all the logistics figured out. We're trying to figure out everything, the business plan, but most importantly, we were like, we need to find a name. Like, what is a name? We didn't want to name it like the Becky and Raffaellina real estate team, because we didn't want to limit ourselves to real estate. We had a vision that this is going to be a global brand in every type of industry, like very similar to like Magnolia, like Chip and Joanna Gaines. Like, they're in the flipping space, they're in the real estate brokerage space, they're in the baking goods space, which I know that you are also. I also stalked you. So they're in the home decor space. So that is what our vision is for Artemis. So we needed to come up with a name that was not strictly limiting us to just real estate. So we had a few ideas come about, and we're like, okay, we like that, but it wasn't anything that was like clicking that we're like, oh my God, we're obsessed with this name. So Raff calls me the day before Mother's Day, and she's like, I have an idea of the name. She's like, what do you think of this? And So she got married on the Amalfi Coast in Italy in 2017. I was at the wedding. It was absolutely beautiful. And she wore the most insanely beautiful wedding dress. So Raff used to work in fashion for Christian Dior before getting into real estate. And she always wanted to wear this dress by Sarah Nori, was the designer. And she found the dress like off the rack. Like it had one size. Of course it was her size. It's like normally like I don't know, ridiculous, really expensive dress, and she ended up getting it for like a fraction of the price. And that's the dress she wore, and the name of the dress that Sarah Nori designed was called Artemis. And she, you know, her wedding was so special to her. It was, yeah, it was so cool. And so she's like, what about the name Artemis? And I literally got chills. It was kind of like the day she, you know, called me about partnering, because 2 years prior, I had just finished my first flip. I made $117,000 in net profit, and I grew up really poor. And so when I made this money, my mom is a widow and she's struggling financially, and I wanted to do something really special for my mom for Mother's Day. So it was weird that she called me the day before Mother's Day. And so I took her out to one of the best restaurants on the Delaware River up north of New Hope. In Bucks County, and we sat by the fire and we had this insane meal, and I'm like, Mom, I want you to pick out whatever wine you want to drink. And, you know, because normally she would get like the house wine, you know, if she did drink, because it was so expensive. And
our frugal mom.
Yeah. So I was like, Mom, I want you to look at the wine list. I don't care what the price is. I want you to get the best bottle of wine. This is all about you. I want you to have the best Mother's Day ever, you know. And so she's like, are you sure, Becky? She was so nervous about buying something expensive. I'm like, I don't care if it's $1,000, like pick whatever you want. So long story short, she ended up picking out a bottle of Stag's Leap Artemis. And it's a Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's an insanely amazing wine. And so we sat there drinking it, and it was so lovely, and it was an amazing experience, and the wine was delicious. And I took a picture of the bottle of wine because I'd never had it before, and I just loved the name. I thought it was so cool. So I went home, I researched the name. I found out that Artemis is the Greek goddess of the hunt. She was a pillar in Greek mythology. She is the twin sister of Apollo, and she was really the protector of women in their village. Like hunted, got all the food, gathered all the food, brought it back to the village, helped birth children with, she never married. She was like this badass woman that was like running the village. And so I love this name. I actually have it in my phone. I created a notes section in my phone, and like, cause I have a horse and I don't have kids, but like, I was like, oh, if I ever get a mare, I'm going to name her Artemis because it's such an amazingly strong name. And I put it in my phone. So when Raff calls me and tells me this, and I'm like, I never told her that story, obviously. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's the name. I'm like, if there's something that is bringing us together, I have such a strong story behind it. Raff had a strong connection to it. So that's how we created the name.
Yeah. And it wasn't just it wasn't just about the name. It's about the result of that thing. So getting married in Italy for me was a generational barrier of breaking through limiting beliefs of limiting ourselves. We got married in Ravello, and it was, the most incredible experience for us, but we did that because it was an incredible challenge. And we said, if now in our lives, we are willing to take these steps of going above and beyond what we think we deserve and just shooting for our dreams now, like we'll do for the rest of our lives. And Becky doing that for her mom, where she was like, she made what a salary is for someone in a deal, which growing up, for both of us, growing up in humble environments, that isn't the norm. It's not what we weren't raised seeing these things. So we're breaking through these generational barriers, and so the meaning of the name is beautiful, Artemis, and what she represents, because as we grow, we are going to uplift women and whoever's in our circle. But however, it's also because of the fact that in that moment of our experience, it was a commitment to one another to be constantly striving and stepping outside of comfort zones. So that's a long story. Yeah.
That is an absolutely amazing beginning for how you two met and how your stories have just collided perfectly together. What would you say, because it seems to be that, I hate to use the word destiny, but that really is quite fitting for, the way your stories have meshed together. What would you say is the business that you're really in? It's not just buying homes. It's not just, finding homes for people. What would you say it really is at the end of the day?
Yeah, so our mission is ultimately was to create an environment that embodies positivity, empowerment, and excellence through community contribution and serving our clients with love. So ultimately, we are both carry our lives as faith-based. So we come from a place of contribution. And ultimately, we believe we always start and end our podcast with live fully, serve authentically, and give selflessly. And we're in the business of inspiring those who have been told that they couldn't or did not see a way, and really believing that they can. So I would say that we're in the philanthropic and in community service, because ultimately we love selling homes, but right? Wouldn't you agree that that's ultimately what, and the business that we found ourselves in is educating, inspiring, and serving in all things real estate. And we just had a women's event in Colorado. Yeah, so we actually, when we create our goals for the year in terms of the income that we want to generate, we base that number around how much we want to give back to the community. So we have committed to donating 10% of our gross earnings to our charities, which I know we'll talk later about, that are near and dear to our heart. So for this year, our goal was to donate $100,000. So each of us responsible for $50,000. So that means that you reverse engineer it, and then we set our goals to what we need to make. And by doing that, by giving back and making an impact in our community and inspiring others to do the same, and whether it's monetary or it's your time that you're donating, it's all the same. And by doing that and helping show others that look at this impact that you can make just with being one person or two people, we're hoping that can, even if it changes one person's life, it would be, it means the world to us. Also creating an environment for women to surround themselves with other women that have the same values, their visions are aligned, their goals are the same, is also our goal as well, and what we're striving to accomplish. So just this past Saturday, we held our first annual the Artemis Woman workshop, which we had here at Keller Williams, and we had 25 women come, and we had a full day of social media, branding, marketing, education. We had an envisioning mindset training. We had a spiritual and giving back and talking about that aspect of your life and how that just makes you fulfilled and come full circle. And then we had a wonderful catered lunch that we had networking with lenders and financial advisors sponsored our event. And then the second half of the day, we had a wellness, we had an iridologist come where they took readings of your eye to talk about, where your body is lacking in nutrients and nutrition. And then we had all about health and a Purium, which is a fabulous program. So it was just all encompassing. Then we ended with a happy hour for networking, and it was just a wonderful day. And we're planning on doing that every single year. And our vision is to grow that to have, 100 attendees, 500 attendees, 1,000, bring in other badass women that can come and be guest speakers that are doing the same thing, because there's such a need for that type of community, especially women in real estate and real estate investing, or any industry. There's only a few real estate industry women. There were people from food, there were landscapers, financial advisors, healthcare. There were all different industries of women that attended, and that's our goal, is to not just reach the women in real estate, but reach women across every industry.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. To get to this point of having such an all-encompassing viewpoint and goals and missions of, where it is that you want to go and who you want to impact. What would you say you've learned from your previous employers that have helped to shape all of this?
What not to do. So coming from the fashion industry, I actually had some incredible colleagues and I did have some great leaders. However, and Nino is an example, she's our chief operating officer. So when Nino came to us, initially they tell you to hire an assistant first. And we gave Nino this title because we believe that we saw within her this gift of leadership. And so we kind of have, in the industry, I would say, in the real estate industry, egos are large. So we come from a place of humility where we want our team to be the ones that are in the limelight. And you know, a lot of times we had Nino present like our entire marketing plan over the weekend, and we were so proud of her. We didn't want the credit of what we wanted her to show, what she built within our business. And so I think what I've learned personally from my past employers, and it really comes from my family. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. They've owned restaurants, they're restaurateurs. My family has always been there in the trenches doing the work. But there's also this seamless dance where you don't want to go too far, because if you are doing the jobs of those that you should be hiring, you could be taking opportunity away. So it's important to understand it's not about delegation and micromanagement, it's about empowerment. It's about giving someone the tools to succeed and allowing them to succeed in the way that they see fit. And I think a lot of leaders want to lead from the top down and telling them this is what you should do, this is how you should do it, as opposed to me saying, here's our end goal, why don't you tell us how you want to get there. And we've seen an environment of collaboration and creativity and overall success, I would say. So that personally for me. Yeah, so I had a bunch of jobs. I started working when I was 9 years old because I grew up really poor, and I knew I wanted things like horseback riding lessons, and my parents couldn't afford them. So I started working in the stable at 9 years old, cleaning horse stalls and working for $5 an hour and essentially just paying to ride. So I learned grit and hustle and work ethic and independence at a very young age, because I had to rely on myself at 9 years old to get, to work towards what I wanted. So I would say all of my jobs and things that I never had, as soon as I got working papers at like 14, I always had 2 jobs. So up through college, and then I had internships, but then right out of college, I was a district manager for a grocery store chain. And what I learned not to do from them is they led by fear. They tried to motivate by fear. I had a very nice salary out of college. I had a company car, company cell phone, expense account. And they said, if you don't work 80 hours a week and do this, that, and the third, then there is another 22-year-old that is willing to take your position and do all the things that you're not willing to do. So you better make sure that you do this or you're out the door. And I never wanted, and so I was always stressed out. I just had no life. I hated what I did, but I felt reliant on my job because I made the money I never was able to make ever before. Money my family never even saw. I was making over $100,000 at 25 years old, and so I felt really like trapped and almost like imprisoned to this position because I didn't know what to do. And I knew that I never wanted to feel that way again. So that's the culture and the environment that we have here at Live Love Artemis. We never want our employees or our agents who are 1099 employees to ever feel that way. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. And Becky touched on something too, the leading by fear. So we have when we do a yearly summit for our team, and Becky does this amazing segment on goal setting, and we have them envision these insanely large goals because Becky talks a lot about manifestation, and she's helped me change my verbiage of imagine if to when. You say, okay, it's as if it's already done. So what we do is we reverse engineer the goals. And so, if it's a car you want or a house you want, what do you have to do daily? What do you have to make monthly? What do you have to do yearly to get to that goal? And so we're not even leading every day to say, oh, we're motivating them daily. It's providing the tools that we're using. So we're growing alongside our team, and we want them to surpass us. That's the goal. We want them to succeed beyond us. So I think when your intentions are authentic
to wanting, because a lot of leaders will say that, and I get a lot of people that will say, oh, we want my team to succeed. Yeah, you want them to succeed at a certain level, and then you create that ceiling, and there is no glass ceiling for us or our team, and we want them to soar. Nino is phenomenal at interior home design, and so she wants to launch I can't say the name yet, but she'll explain that. She'll talk about that. But she wants to launch an interior home design under our Artemis brand. And we want her to soar and to fly. So we're like, hey, put all your systems together so that you can package it and teach someone else how to do it. And then we are here to support you in your dreams and your goals and dreams. And I can't wait to watch her get there. It's going to be amazing.
She's actually doing I'm renovating my house I bought a 1940s fixer-upper because you always buy the cheapest house in the nicest neighborhood. So that's what I did. And so she's actually doing my house. So it's going to be like the test run, and I cannot wait to show everyone the finished product.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be, so that's really going to be like
it's the looking amazing.
Yeah, so it's going to be the launch pad.
That's awesome. It sounds like there's such a good energy and an awesome dynamic between everyone that works there. How would you say the skills that you've accumulated and the challenges that you've overcome within the past years, how has that helped to create the successful partnership that you two have?
Yeah, wow. It's where we come from. It's that we were raised in an environment. We may not have had a lot growing up, but we had a lot of love. And so I think for us, we saw within one another this light of contribution, and it's so funny, like we went to go try Rolexes on, because we're like, we set these goals, like, okay, we have, just fun goals, and we went to go try them on. And they brought out the bigger, more beautiful one, and we're both like, I want to see you have that. And so I think sometimes as women, there's this thing where we're like, we want each other to grow, but we don't want that person to surpass us. And I think what we share from one another is we truly, authentically want the best for one another in all aspects of our lives. We support one another. And I think honesty, being honest to one another, and sometimes having to share what might hurt that person's feelings, and having them know, hey, listen, like, this is what you could do to be better. And Becky's always willing to tell me in a way that we don't hold each other accountable. We are not each other's accountability partners. We're each other's support. So if we're saying to each other, well, you were supposed to do this, or that's not going to create an environment of success. It's going to create an environment of issues and problems. So I think where we come together in a successful partnership is that we are every day striving to provide more and bring more to the table, and we do that for one another, right? And so it's this really beautiful synergy of really wanting the best for each other, and really it has to do with fate at the end of the day. Like, we were truly meant to be friends, and everything we've been through in life has come to this beautiful crossroad where we are truly meant to be where we are at, and we are going to do phenomenal things in this world together. And I couldn't think of another person that I would want to like stand side by side with. I was listening to her speak, and I was like in the corner, like, so proud. I feel like it was like my baby, and like she does the same for me. Like, I'm like,
I know she's gonna make me cry right now. Jesus, it's not even noon.
But it's authentic, right? It's not this thing that we have to make up. Like, we're sisters. So I think that's where the partnership works.
Yeah, I think that when you can find someone or surround yourself with others that inspire you to be the best version of yourself and step outside of your comfort zone, because that's really when you grow, is when you're uncomfortable. And then so you're uncomfortable, but they're inspiring you to get to that next level, and you know that they're going to be giving you tough love, but it's all because it's coming from a place of contribution, and they want to see you be better. That's when you know that you have something that's magical. And that's what we have here. And it's really, really, really wonderful.
Yeah. Nothing we could have created. God had a plan bigger than us, so
that's for sure.
Absolutely. What qualities and what discipline does it take to get to where you girls are now?
Well, it takes self-reflection and being honest with yourself and your habits. We were being very honest with ourselves just yesterday. We told ourselves, if we want to get serious about this business, we need to dedicate 2 hours a day to lead generating at a specific time. What are the things we need to create? So we're very honest with ourselves, and we're always willing to take ownership for anything that goes wrong in this like within our team. We literally will sit there and say, what did we not provide? What did we not do that we should have done that could have had this come out differently? So I think it's taking ownership of yourself and not making excuses as to why this person didn't do this client didn't treat me right, this deal went wrong. Well, what did you do that, or what could you have done differently? And I think that that's where we come from, a place of ownership and taking responsibility for both the good and the bad, right? So that's kind of where we come from, you know, in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Raff hit it, the nail on the head. I would say that we're always looking to do what others won't do in order to live a life that others aren't living, because it's doing the hard things. It's putting it in your schedule, sticking to your schedule. Lead gen at a certain time, which we decided not to call it lead gen because I think that's why we're not getting it done. So we're calling it, you know, we're selling our deals today, or we're going to put you know, take our vision board and take one thing from our vision board. If, you know, we want to buy a Rolex, you know, this month, hey, it's Rolex time. So we got to, you know, make those calls so we can make the money to buy. That's right. That's right. So that's really what it boils down to. If you want to live a life of abundance in every way, whether it's contributing, giving back, inspiring, you know, material things are great too, but that's not what it's all about. It's just a great, you know, subsidiary of success. It's really about doing what others aren't willing to do, putting the long hours in, the hustle, the grit, the grind, you know, making those uncomfortable phone calls, having those tough conversations, and putting the time in and not looking for immediate success. It's a lot of people see, you know, the success now, but I've been licensed since 2012. I got licensed in real estate in Ohio in 2012, and I was not successful immediately. It took me 6 months from the time I got licensed to sell my first house. And that was a $170,000 house. And I was at Keller Williams on a team. So I had to split with the brokerage and I had to split with the team. I made like 20% of the commission, but I was so motivated and driven that I got that first deal closed that it just lit a fire, and I just took off from there, and I sold 24 houses my first year as Rookie of the Year. But still, I had a lot of setbacks. I got divorced. I had to move back home to Doylestown, start my life over. I had to get relicensed in Pennsylvania in 2014. And then I got licensed in Jersey in 2016. And it's a long road, and there's a lot of setbacks and, you know, disappointments and things that are going to go wrong. But if you just keep persevering and you keep the goal at the end of the day in sight, there's nothing you can't achieve. And surrounding yourself with the right people will also help elevate and help you get to that goal. Yeah.
I love that. So one last question before we get to the charity that you girls want to highlight. What do you as women bring to the table differently?
So I would say the one thing that we bring to the table differently is that we're always willing to look for the light within somebody and to bring that to surface. And I think that as opposed to coming from a place of judgment, we come from a place of revelation. And I think as women, that if we all came from a place of revelation and didn't judge one another, right? I actually can say me, Nino, and Becky sit in this office every day. We show up at work at 8 o'clock every day and have never spent a moment gossiping about anybody. And if we do, and there is something that's being said, one of us will typically pick the other person up and say, hey, we don't know, we're not walking in their shoes. And those who have even done wrong to us. So I think that that's the thing that we bring differently, even with our clients, right? Seeing things in a different perspective. And for us, it's really from God's perspective, seeing things from above. And when you can see things that way, you're not looking at what's happening to me, you're looking at what's happening for me. In every scenario, we can lose a deal and we know, okay, and I'll call Becky, I'm gonna lose this listing. Great, it's okay. It's opening the opportunity, the door for you to find something greater. If I called her and she was like, you are, and she's crying on the other line, I don't think we'd be where we are today. So I think that's what where we serve in that way.
That's wonderful. So tell us about the charity that you'd like to highlight today.
You should highlight two. Why don't you?
Yeah. Do you mind if we highlight two?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
So the charity that is near and dear to my heart, I'm a huge animal lover. I have a horse, 2 dogs, and 3 cats. And I love the charity. It's called Last Chance Ranch, and they're based out of Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And they have been around since 1999. And they are a 501c3, and they save horses from slaughter that are sold at auction. And they go and they outbid the kill buyers, and they save these horses from being sold for meat up in Mexico or Canada. And they bring them back to the ranch. They get the proper veterinary care. They get the farrier to look at their hooves. They quarantine them, and then they get them adopted out. They also save numerous dogs and cats from euthanasia. They go down south to pull them out of overcrowded shelters. And they also help all other types of farm animals as well. There's chickens, donkeys, cows, goats, you name it. And they're just absolutely amazing. And they're up in Upper Bucks County. And they also are looking for volunteers for your time to help around the ranch, along with monetary donors. And I would strongly suggest you guys to look into them because they're wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Awesome, thanks.
yeah, that's a great one. And then my church that I go to is Every Nation, and I'm just bringing this out. So they go to Every Nation campus. So for those who don't know, suicide rates are up significantly for both end of high school and to college students because of the pressures of social media and having to perform and not knowing what to do with their lives and just life in general. And so there's this important aspect of having faith in that so that you can rely on something greater than yourself. And so they go out and they provide just hope to these students that are feeling like spiritually depleted. And so we donate to them because I was at that place where I was spiritually depleted in college. I wish I had had a voice of reason that would have gotten me to a place where I could have focused on a greater mission in my life and not put that pressure for years and to perform and make it all about the dollars and cents. So they're phenomenal. It's Freedom Church, Every Nation campus, and they're locally here in Philadelphia.
Wonderful. Girls, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. So appreciate it. And can't wait to see what you guys do in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa, for having us on.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll talk to you soon.